Okay, so in this last video, the overview uh, video for activity number 5, we're going to take a look at the code that created listings and the code that we're using to create the report. Now, students might ask, as many people do, what is the difference between a listing and a report? Think of a listing as just a data dump, a single source. We want to see what's in the database table or the file, and we're just going to go ahead and look at that data. We're not going to have headings. It's just, again, it's just you. What you might do and what I've done in these is you might, as you print out, at least give a listing of what you're looking at, a title of what you're looking at, but that's pretty much it. So in our first one, we're going to do the product listing, PHP, and it's all pretty straightforward, typical things that you set up in PHP when you're hitting the table. We're going to go through here. I'm going to do my product listing. Again, I'm going to set it up here in just a table, so select all. Just trying to make it a little neat at that. Again, you can look at the code. I'm sure you're familiar with PHP and how to hit MySQL. But let's go out and we'll look at the output. So for this, let me see. Here's my product listing, and I think I'm going to do the inventory one first. And you're going to see here, no, you know what? In fact, let me go back. I'm sorry, a little confusing. Product listing. And I've got my UPC code, my description, and the max temp. And that again is just, I just want to see the data. I just want to see what I have in there. Real quick and dirty of what we still have in the database. Then we can go and we can take a look at our so that was, and let me go back up and make sure I'm telling you right. That was our product listing. Let's take a look at our inventory listing. Same thing, nothing different here. We've got the product code target account again, just a straight, really a data dump. Let's go take a look at that. Here's our inventory listing. So we've got our target count, and we happen to know these. I mean, you're doing a data dump. The assumption being that you understand what you're looking at. You see what you're doing. Now, the one thing though that I do want to point out quickly, and that you might want to talk to the students about, is the concept of archiving. So let me see on this one. I got my product listing, time temp listing. So here we are. Now this time we're just pulling it in from a flat data file that's out on the server, time temp log.txt, which if you recall we wrote to from the RTC module that we used in lesson number 1. So let's go out and take a look at that code. Let's see. There we go. Now, when I talk about the concept of archiving, uh, what you'd want to do is over a period of time, looking and see how these fluctuate. So you can just have a hard copy. Now, what a warehouse will do, a warehouse will set up zones, and you'll be tracking the temperature in a particular zone. In our case, and just using the kitchen as kind of our warehouse, we don't have to worry about that. We can just look at it and go from there. And you might also want to point out that this data, you can also just grab this data and throw it into Excel and start to map it. But the time temp for our cases, it's not hypercritical. But again, you might want to refer the kids back to the first lesson where we controlled an LED using an Ajax query, and that code could easily be modified to go out and read this file. So we could be aware if something was more critical, keeping an eye on the temperature fluctuations. And the last thing we want to look at is our inventory report. And I brought that up, but let's take a look at the code real fast for that. And let me see if I can grab it. Let me pull that up. No, that's our inventory listing. Here we go. Here's the inventory report. Now, this can be a little tricky, even for experienced programmers. You're doing an inner join here. Now, what I did is I went ahead and put it in resources, just this query, just the SQL statement. So if you wanted to pull it out to PHP MyAdmin and play around with it there. Like I also set up in our resources the sample data. So if you wanted to play around with it here. The one thing though, again, that we had done earlier in one of our applications, we set the default time zone, America. You always want to have on your reports, you want to have a date timestamp, because you might rerun a report, you might caught an error in something that you had done and go back. And if you're archiving and have these reports, sitting on your desk somewhere, you want to be able to go back and take a look at which one was ran the latest. So we're just going through, and what we're doing is we're combining the two tables. We're showing the product code, product description, the max store temp, target count, and actual count. And let me show you how this looks up here. So now this is pretty straightforward. Again, you can see the difference between this and a listing. In this, our formatting, we're being a little bit more careful with that. But again, if you archive this, now here's something that you might want to point out to the kids, is that as you're looking at your actual count and target count, if they start to differ and you can't figure out why they are different, and you've got your dates from one report to the next, that's where you're going to go to your entry log. If you remember, we had done that with the RFID. We were keeping track of who might be going into the inventory area. And that would be a way that you would use that and go back and track down who was pulling out a granola bar when they shouldn't have been. So that's pretty much it. I mean, these 4 lessons that we put together, quite frankly, probably should be a whole curriculum within themselves. But I think it gives the kids a pretty good overview of how you're going to use sensor fusion, taking multiple data sources from different sensors and try to pull them all together into a coherent report. So that does it for this video.